We fusillate. Sarah Palin. Okay, so do you want it on like full? So Gamer Gay, it's a hashtag. I'm Nimrod, and I'm going to introduce the panel later. Let me see after the video. Let's move so they can see it.
Maybe you should stop talking to critics like Anita Sarkeesian. Here now to be talked to is media critic and creator of the web series Feminist Frequency, Anita Sarkeesian. Miss Sarkeesian, thanks for being on here. All right. Look. Let's put this on the line. Okay. Let's call this what it is. You and the other feminazis in the gamer world are coming for our balls to snip them off, put them into a little felt purse, and take them away so we have to play your non-violent games, right?
No, that's not true.
It's a culture war. It's a subculture war.
There is something going on, and what it is women being harassed and threatened and terrorized.
After you first attacked male gamers for enjoying looking at big-breasted women with tiny armor that barely covers their nipples. What is wrong with that? I like what that looks like. I'm a man, baby. Newsflash. I like it.
Well, one of the problems with that is it actually reinforces this cultural myth that women are sexual objects and sexual playthings for male amusement, and we're not.
We're saving them. They're damsels in distress. I'm saving the princess. Am I supposed to let the princess die? Is that what you want? That's kind of harsh. That's kind of hostile.
Well, maybe the princess shouldn't be a damsel, and she could save herself.
Well, they've got games where... They've got games... I didn't know you brought posse. Okay. All right. So you've been the object of criticism yourself.
Yes.
What happened at Utah State University?
There was a threat that someone emailed to the school saying that they would commit the biggest school shooting, a massacre, if I was allowed to speak.
But by criticizing these, you say, would you call them male fantasy games or male fantasy objectification of women games?
Some of them, that would be an accurate title, yeah.
Give me some names. Name some names.
So, in the work that I do, I look at hundreds of examples of video games
so
that I identify.
Can you think of three?
I can, but I think it's a bigger issue to talk about the industry as a whole and how it perpetuates these ideas of sexism and misogyny as opposed to just Grand Theft Auto, for example.
Why do you think that women are being threatened? Because it's almost entirely women who are being threatened in Gamergate.
Yes.
Chris Chloe has talked about this. He hasn't been threatened. Other men haven't been threatened. Why do you think women are being threatened?
So I'm going to pause that and show a quick example of what she actually does in her YouTube show. It's called Feminist. You can see how I type it. You see it's already on the autocomplete, the second option. So you know it's big if it's in the autocomplete. And here she goes on and
used as a set piece to establish or punctuate the seedy atmosphere of crime and chaos-ridden fictional universes.
Far Cry 3.
It's meant to paint the gaming environment with a harsh brush, but it ends up doing so on the backs of women's bodies, casually sacrificing female characters in the name of setting a rude
jump to another example.
Administer first aid or check in on the victim. Meaning that these female characters exist to be assaulted in order to give the player something to do, a reason to chase down the bad guy, exact vigilante justice on him, and gain the allotted experience points. After which the women are casually discarded, forgotten by the game.
That's enough. Whoa, she's all limp. I didn't even hit her that hard. Just makes our job easier.
Grand Theft Auto 4 requires the player to kidnap a woman.
Stop this thing, you slime bag! Stop being such a fucking bitch! Hold the fuck down, or little birdies will be eating your brains off the dashboard tomorrow morning.
We got
during this mission, the protagonist character insults her and whispers in protest.
Is this too graphic to pause on? I don't know what to pause on. Okay, we'll switch later or something else. Okay, so let's introduce the panel members. We just see it.
Yeah.
We can't just watch videos. Things happen. We have Nelufar Hedayat, Google Hair. Check this mic. Thea, the Gallier, Google her. Milo Yiannopoulos, Google him. James Cook, Google him. And me. 3 of us have Wikipedia pages, and only Milo is verified on Rap Genius. Nelufar is on Wikipedia. James is about to be verified on Twitter. Thea is actually the only one who knows about Gamergate from a family point of view. Yeah. Start with Milo. The lady we saw, Anita Sarkeesian, you wrote a lot about her. What was the latest thing you wrote about her? She's like the symbol of feminism in video games. Maybe take this one.
Well, she represents a community of quite hardline feminist activists who want to change video games in most gamers' minds for the worse. And she perpetuates this idea that women are victims, and she's not really a victim. She's a very well-funded, very intelligent, very articulate woman who has decided that she wants to go to war on video games. The reason this is a controversy in the first place is that women like her have gone into other fandoms before. They've gone into comic books, they've gone into fantasy, they've gone into sci-fi, and in each of those little worlds, people have capitulated, and they have taken games and books and comic books off the shelves. They've retroactively changed the sex of characters to satisfy the whims of these, fringe people. Gamers were the first community who said, actually, the criticisms that you're making have no validity whatsoever. What you're saying isn't a fair depiction. You're cherry-picking tiny scenes from vast video games. You could do it about Hollywood movies. You could do it about Victorian novels, for God's sake. You're cherry-picking ridiculous things to paint this bizarre idea that video games are somehow intrinsically sexist, which, as an art form, they're simply not. And we're not going to stand for it. We don't want it, and we'd rather you weren't in video games. And
you mean?
We being most gamers,
Adam Baldwin.
Mostly being, well, Adam Baldwin indeed is.
Can you switch place just with Thea, so just not guys and ladies?
Sure.
Yeah, Adam Baldwin invented the Gamergate hashtag.
Yes, so he's a Hollywood actor who is a bit of a geek icon. He was in.
A bit like a host here.
Yeah. I like him on the stories.
Yeah.
So he was in Firefly. He was in he was in Full Metal Jacket, which is where most men know him from. And he invented this hashtag to describe two things. One is video gamers rejecting these feminist critiques, and two, for a decade or more, video gamers had been very frustrated with games journalism in the way that it wasn't doing its job properly. It was kind of like a rubbishy sort of trade press that wasn't doing its job properly. It was way too close to people like Sarkeesian, repeating her criticisms uncritically, repeating the claims of some women to have been threatened with death and rape, and many of these claims don't stand up to scrutiny, uncritically repeating them. And these two issues are what gamers effectively rebelled over, and they were the first fandom to do that.
Let's have Thea. When you hear about Gamergate, what comes to mind?
I think, firstly, I would have to disagree slightly with you, Milo, on the fact that Anita Sarkeesian's criticisms are. But as you said, and I agree with you on, it happens in all media, in films, books, whatever. So, she is choosing to focus on that medium. But having spoken to a lot of female and male players of all kinds of video games, a lot of the women that I spoke to had actually been subjected to abuse and negative comments online while playing games. So I think there is a degree of sexism within video gaming, but from what I have found myself, I would say it's a vocal minority, and I feel with Gamergate that the initial concerns over ethics in journalism with the developers and journalists sort of cozying up together, that was kind of dealt with when sites like Polygon and Kotaku changed their policies. So journalists...
Like Gawker sites?
Yeah, so Kotaku is a gaming site owned by Gawker, and after some complaints that journalists were donating to crowdfunders for indie developers and stuff, they're now all required...
You don't understand, you can just say anything.
Basically, if there is any relationship there which could be seen as a conflict of interest, they're now required to disclose that. So, in my opinion, that's kind of a victory. That was what people wanted when they were saying there is ethical considerations, and that's now been changed. But then I feel that the conversation was hijacked by this vocal minority that do have quite a
misogynist right-wing minority, would you say? That hate women, want to keep games?
I don't think it's a widespread thing within people who play games as a whole. I do think it's a minority, but I think that there is opposition towards gaming sites covering a political agenda like equality and feminism, and I don't think it should be a problem. I don't think gaming press should be immune from getting involved in cultural issues like that.
But you understand that the reason people are upset is a perception that all these sites are doing. That in fact it wasn't that there was this multiplicity of opinions in gaming and websites, but they were only talking from this sort of what we call the social justice warrior narrative. They were saying there was something intrinsically wrong with male products for men having explosions and boot in them. And there is nothing wrong with that. And what they were also saying, and this is where the theory starts to break down, is that that has effects on society. And it doesn't. I mean, the jury's very much out on whether there's any effect whatsoever on society from video games, whether there's any effect on the way that somebody behaves having played a video game. In fact, most of the evidence suggests that when people get out of their systems playing video games, they're nicer to each other in real life. And so, it wasn't...
A question to James, like, are there any feminist video games? Like, where you, like, men prostitutes?
There are male prostitutes. In fact, Grand Theft Auto 4, one of the games mentioned in Inicio Kizu's video, has a DLC, an add-on pack called The Ballad of Gay Tony, which focuses on New York's gay scene. So I don't see how you can really sort of say that it's an anti-women game. I mean,
GTA, or like...
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto is not an anti-women game. I mean, there are female prostitutes in it. There are female prostitutes in New York City. I'm not saying that New York City is somehow inherently sexist. I mean, there are obviously problems within it. Grand Theft Auto is, think of it as a Hollywood movie. It tells a story of an immigrant coming to a city and the things he encounters within it.
And women can play it and enjoy it just as much?
They can indeed, yeah. They
No.
can play online as well.
Like Charlie Booker said, more women are playing video games?
No, so that study has been sort of debunked, as it were, because basically people were asked, have you played a video game in the last 6 months or whatever? And everyone says yes, and of course some people turn out, and then they study again, and actually that figure isn't quite right.
No.
So it's important to look at, when we see studies relating to the number of people playing video games, to really look and drill down on the statistics to see what that actually means.
Let's see, Nelufar. So the lady that was interviewed, she got death threats, and she had to cancel an appearance in Utah. So getting death threats means you're doing something good, vis-a-vis Charlie Hebdo?
I think I'm kind of confused as to where this conversation is kind of going. Everyone seems to be saying slightly different things. I probably being the person that plays video games the least, but I'm familiar with it only through what my younger siblings play. But it seems to me that there's an issue about tropes, about what we deem to be acceptable in video games as a genre itself. So whether it's acceptable to have bare-chested, naked slave women. And then there's an issue about this woman, Anita, herself. I mean, I've seen that video and I've seen other things that she's written and researched for this. And, by acting the way that some of the people, some gamers have acted by brandishing her as the social justice warrior, it says a lot about them. It says a lot about the scene. And that to me speaks volumes. If she's been kind of getting death threats, like, I can't remember her name, but on Twitter, the woman who was arguing for more women on banknotes in Britain got death threats.
Caroline Criado Perez.
A beautiful name it is. But I mean, the point is that ultimately it says a lot about the scene, any scene, whether it's gaming or otherwise. If I watch an Al Pacino movie, or if I watch a gangster movie, or as I was doing earlier today, watching Sopranos, and I see a scene in which they're in a bar, there's naked ladies dancing everywhere, whatever, I accept that as part of that, as a trope of that genre. What I don't accept is for somebody who voices their opinions to then receive death threats, or to be called out as being hostile. You can't call hostility out by being hostile. It just doesn't make sense.
No, but this is the great sort of moral gesture of our age. It's this great argument, and people are never consistent on this point. If you concede that it is a vocal minority, yet you say that it says something about the culture in general, that these fringe minority people are indulging in a certain sort of behaviour. Well, we don't apply the same argument to anything else. I mean,
we apply to Islam at the moment with ISIS. Most Muslims are expected to apologise for something they have no responsibility for, so I'm not sure if that's
right. So you're saying that's wrong. Why is it right to brand
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying it's a debate that's needing to be had. I'm saying it's a very healthy thing to be able to talk about. But what I'm saying is doing it with hostility.